Good afternoon. I'm here today with Phil Bertleson and Sarah. We're talking about Black and Jewish America and interwoven history. How are you two doing today?
Great, James.
We're good. It's good to be with you.
Thank you for joining me. I saw this series. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know growing up. I hate to say it. And what's really interesting more than anything else is as I was growing up, I kept asking, my dad was the secretary of the NAACP here in
Oh,
St. Louis, but
wow.
I don't know much about the NAACP. So, Sarah, let's get started with
Sure.
this. Uh, the documentary itself and how this whole thing got started, it was very interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the motivation for the film really started with Dr. Gates. It's a topic that's actually been quite close to his heart his whole life for various personal reasons. But I think the moment that really had him start thinking about making it for this film was Charlottesville, and seeing the Unite the Right rally and the sort of resurgence of white nationalism that was unabashedly anti-black and anti-Semitic, and how those things connect. And there were, multiple, unfortunately, tragedies around them, whether it was the Mother Emanuel Charleston shooting or Tree of Life in Pittsburgh, that it just became undeniable how much this force that has always been a part of, our country was back at work, and a good time to, to look back at the very, very long history of entanglement, kinship between these peoples. Never perfect, never without tension. We weren't trying to sugarcoat anything. If anything, we were trying to take an honest look at it as a way to know each other and our histories and our intersecting histories better, maybe as a foundation for moving forward from here.
Phil, let's talk a little bit about the music. You caught me off guard with that Cafe Society. And here, it's just crazy. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, Cafe Society is one of my favorite stories, and it was actually not a story we had scripted. And, a lot of what we do has a great deal of research and development to really understand the better stories to tell because we have to curate them. But Cafe Society popped up in conversation around Billie Holiday and Strange Fruit. And to know that that was its premier venue, and that at the heart of uh, that venue was a Jewish shoe salesman from New Jersey, Barney Josephson, and that his brother, did time after refusing to testify before, the McCarthy hearing. So, it just was this kind of stew of, really more of a jambalaya, like fully integrated stage, patrons, great talent. To see if I could transport myself back in time, it would be to go to Cafe Society. I even visited the location down in Sheridan Square. You got to come when you come to New York, man. It's right down there. The address still exists. It was no resemblance of Cafe Society, but it was really a magical time. It lasted for a decade, against all odds, and was, I think, the best representation of Black and Jewish cultural, sharing and experience of its day, late 30s into the 40s.
What was the involvement with Billy Crystal in all this?
Hmm.
I had a friend of mine who, was a jazz musician, a Jewish jazz musician. And he just kind of by the by was like, that was another story was not on our radar. It was like, Billy has a connection to Strange Fruit, and you should look into it. It's in his Broadway play. He does a one-man show. I think it's called something Fridays, 1,000 Fridays or something. And sure enough, he tells the story of his Uncle Milt and his father-in-law who started this record business, and they were the only ones who had the courage enough to print, record, and put out Strange Fruit, which was a song that was legendary, and written by a Jewish school teacher here in New York. So it just the whole confluence of that just was something that we felt we had to kind of build an episode around.
So let's have some fun because I even brought it up in coffee the other day. You know, if the end of the world comes, we're going to rely on Jewish and a black guy, Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum to say, talk about. I thought that
Yeah.
was great at that
Gotta,
table. Talk
yeah.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, so one of the things that we wanted to do was put together a Seder, a Passover Seder, a Black and Jewish Seder, because of course the core of the Seder is the commemoration of the Exodus story, which is so vital to both, the Black tradition, the Jewish tradition, of course, but also
Mm.
Black faith traditions. And a lot of people at the table, which was hosted by our wonderful, incredible chef and historian Michael Twitty, very funny guy also, were Black and Jewish as well. And and an opportunity to have a little unstructured conversation
Mhm.
around these themes. Dr. Gates was there, Michael Twitty, of course. You had Asian American rabbis, Black rabbis, Jamaica Kincaid, David Remnick, a bunch of really interesting folks around the table, and yeah, I mean, I think if we had even more hours of this film, we could do a whole film just about the
We could do
cultural
a whole
aspects,
episode
right?
on the,
Yeah.
yeah, on the
We got
Seder.
to explore that more with the music and the
Gene
jazz age.
Wilder
But Gene
and
Wilder,
Richard
oh my
Pryor.
gosh, yeah, Richard Pryor, Gene Wilder. I'm watching the Mel Brooks documentary right now. They're talking, Blazing Saddles. We could have, there's so many things on our own cutting room floor that could have been in this film. But yeah, I think uh, comedy is certainly one of them, and this Black and Jewish connection in comedy, and sense of sort of actually what Cornell West calls the tragicomic, right? That out of tragedy is often where comedy comes from. Yeah,
Yeah, had to learn to laugh to keep from crying.
exactly.
Yes, definitely. It's very interesting. I'm sitting here thinking now, when we had the Ferguson riots, 2014, 2015,
Yeah.
I do remember on the front line, rabbis, Jewish rabbis,
Mm-hmm.
hand in
That's right.
hand. If you remember
Yeah.
the pictures and the video. So is that something you caught me off guard again? I'm thinking about it right now. So is that part of the connection too? Is why they were there?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, it doesn't always make headlines in the way maybe, or it become as, iconic as Heschel and King, but I think uh for that there's a important, sorry, core value of Judaism, tikkun olam, repairing the world. And maybe it's not always acted on, but rabbis especially feel it that yeah, you stand with those who are vulnerable because it's the right thing to do, and because we've also had plenty of experience being in that position. And so yeah.
One of those last stories, Phil, that kind of hit me was of the black soldiers who were there at some of the Jewish camps. That was very interesting. If we could really talk about that real quick.
Yeah, no, it's a widely misunderstood part of history, but Black soldiers during World War II did see frontline action, mostly in support positions, but as it related to liberating concentration camps, many were there and bared witness to that horror, that atrocity, and were shocked to learn that white people could do this to other white people, and took that with them, into post-war America, as something that helped them bridge any divide that might be between Blacks and Jews, and understand that there was a shared history of persecution that they could activate, and they did during the Civil Rights Movement. Many of them were war veterans themselves.
Yeah.
So that's really the short story.
Reverend Abernathy.
Robert
I
Afternoon.
got to thank you, Phil, Sarah, for joining us, talking about Black and Jewish America and interwoven history. That's going to be on PBS. It's going to be hosted by Henry Louis Gates Jr. And again, I think one of the most interesting things about it was, once again, how a Jewish guy and a black guy are going to always save the world no matter what. Guys, thank you for
Let's
joining
hope.
us on
Let's
Morning
hope.
Blend.
It's been a real
All
pleasure,
right,
James.
brother.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
All right.
Appreciate you.